So at the very front of the engine where you think it would be an oil pan, there's a transmission.
That is very strange.
Instead of a crankshaft pulley, you got a transmission.
Weird.
Okie dokie. Welcome to Hoovie's Garage, the dumbest automotive channel in all of YouTube, and this is my latest purchase. It is a depreciation hero, but also one of the most controversial Ferraris of all time. It is a 2012 Ferrari FF, and it is, well, a mullet basically, or the opposite of one, because you have all the party in the front with a V12 Ferrari engine, but then all business in the back with the hatchback. And that does sound really cool, but it was a huge departure from Ferrari. And when I saw it when it first came out over 10 years ago, I thought it was really, really stupid. One of the dumbest Ferraris ever made, because it cost, well, $350,000 or $400,000 with options. And it does look like it's two completely different cars. They don't really mash up that well together, in my opinion, the front and the back. And it was very overstyled, I thought, for its time. The giant grille right here. Just a really weird thing, but not only was it overstyled and weirdly styled and expensive, but also very complicated. It was the first all-wheel drive Ferrari, but they did it with a whole second transmission just smacked on the front somewhere, and that only got 20% of the power when it needed it. So yes, it's all-wheel drive, but it really was an unnecessary all-wheel drive, but then it hit all the boxes for a family Ferrari. You had 4 full seats. You had all-wheel drive, but then you had a 650 horsepower, 6.3 liter V12. Nobody bought it, basically. And now they have depreciated after a little over 2,000 units built. They've depreciated for way, way less than what they sold for new. I paid a little over $100,000 for this FF that has a bit of miles, 37,000 miles, which in the Ferrari world is, well, kind of a lot, but it has had a big issue with it already fixed. So today I'm going to give you a tour of this really dumb Ferrari, or Ferrari at least I thought was dumb, but now is a really, really great buy. I'll give you a tour, go on a drive, and we'll head up to the car wizard for an inspection to see what he thinks of my latest purchase. But before we dive into the FF, I'd like to thank BetterHelp for sponsoring today's video. I think we all know that I have a little bit of a compulsive buying problem, but it's created all of this, so there's no reason to treat that yet. But one thing that's been bothering me is some unresolved grief over the death of someone that was really, really important to me a few years ago. It was during the start of the pandemic, during the worst of the lockdowns. So in those circumstances, and the fact that I never got the closure of a funeral, plus the whole of my life with this person being gone, it was just really hard to get past. Now, I know there's a stigma in asking for therapy, but there shouldn't be. And in my case, I started seeing a therapist on BetterHelp last year, and it helped me a lot. Now, BetterHelp is a virtual service that within a few days of filling out a form, a questionnaire online, it matches you with someone in their 30,000 plus therapist network that gives you access to help that you may not have available in your area. It may have worked a little too well in my case, since it matched me with a therapist that's also a Midwesterner that's into cars, and they also have an E30 BMW in their garage. And the type of therapy that you can get varies on what you want, including by text, audio, or live video. And sometimes with therapy, the first therapist you try isn't the perfect match for you, but with BetterHelp, you can request a new therapist at any time for no additional charge. So join the over 3 million people, including me, who have taken charge of their mental health with a BetterHelp therapist. And you can get 10% off your first month if you go to betterhelp.com/HooviesGarage. That's BetterHelp.com/HooviesGarage for 10% off. Now, let's start the tour of the Ferrari. So let's start the tour of the FF, and let's see if you agree with what I'm saying about the styling, how it looks like two different cars. My hand goes up, basically. We have a beautiful mid-engine car like an F12 here. You go to the other side and you have, well, a hatchback like a Golf R or something like that, but then you put the two together and proportionally it just looks a little weird, and that's one of the main reasons why people didn't buy these. It wasn't your traditional, oh my God, that's absolutely gorgeous looking Ferrari. It hit a lot of boxes, and people who love like BMW clown shoes or wagons lost their minds. And I'm a big wagon fan myself, but I was just a little spicy over the price and, well, the overall look of it. It just looks really, really funny. But depreciated to around $100,000 compared to an F12 that's still every bit of a $250,000 or $300,000 car. This all day long. I mean, obviously you get so much car for the money, and the front end does look really good. This car, I've been driving it so much, so that's why it looks so dirty, but it's actually in fantastic shape, and it has a full PPF on it. You can see it has carbon ceramic brakes on it with the yellow big giant brake calipers. That grille, in my opinion, not the best looking. I'm not a big fan of it, but it certainly is of its time, of the mid-2000s. Gives you a little bit of drama here going down the side of the door. And then, unlike the clown shoe, it doesn't have the big hips that stick out really far to give you a lot of interior space. So this was styled by Pininfarina. It does have the badge. And you go inside, and you have those classic Daytona seats, the very of its era Ferrari interior with the flying buttress center console, the same launch control, that PS button, reverse automatic, because it is a dual clutch. But then you have a nice big back seat, which I have folded down right now because I was hauling golf clubs, but it fits the kids no problem. You have rear climate in the back as well. And with the steering wheel and the instrument cluster, you have the same as any other Ferrari of the era. The digital readouts on either side, the steering wheel with all the adjustments, and that analog tachometer there in the middle. All of it is working, minus a few sticky buttons. Once again, indicative of the Ferrari of its era, and a little bit of peel back on the dash as far as the leather. Once again, very indicative of the Ferrari of its era, but still way less headaches than older Ferraris with all the ins and outs and the belt service and the weird electronics. These things are overall very solid, with one exception. The exception is not the engine. You can see it is really, really gorgeous, the presentation here. 6.3 liter V12, 650-ish horsepower, the 0 to 60 in a hot hatch, 3.5 seconds or a little bit less. Even though this car is over 10 years old, performance-wise, that puts it near the top when it comes to hot hatch performance. Obviously, they've replaced it with the GT4 Lusso. Ed Bullion has one of those. Basically the same car with a few, well, quite a few upgrades. But the FF is much cheaper, and it looks, well, basically the same. And then with the hatch open, you can see, look at all the space you have here. It's just way, way more room than any Ferrari ever in existence. Now, I've hauled the dog in here. I've hauled lots and lots of things, both of my kids in the back. It does pretty much everything you would want for a family car to do, except for the hatch to go down. Maybe I have to push the button. There we go. And everything is working. So the big gotcha that I hinted at earlier, that is the transmission, or the two transmissions on this thing. And actually this car sold on Bring a Trailer a few years ago with a little over 30,000 miles. It has 37,000 miles on it now. Sold for $130, I think. And a lot of people were concerned about the transmission because this early dual clutch transmission setup is prone to failure, just like with the Ferrari 458s and say the Mercedes SLS AMG is the same supplier. Took them a few years to figure it all out. And the early cars, the first few years, they do have a tendency to fail. The seller who was selling the car on Bring a Trailer commented, well, it's all blown out of proportion. It's no big deal. The car's fine. It was on its original transmission. But shortly after the previous owner purchased this, the transmission did explode to the tune, I'll wait for the plane, to the tune of $40,000. It was a $40,000 transmission replacement, which is absolutely terrible. So there's the transmission replacement, they put the PPF on it, and they also spent $10,000 on a modern touchscreen stereo because these originally came with a Chrysler setup, like out of a Jeep Grand Cherokee, that didn't age very well. So it has a modern touchscreen. So like $60,000 in upgrades, and I bought it for 20 grand less than what it sold for on Bring a Trailer, or 25 with fees, just a few years ago. So I feel like these have bottomed out. I can't imagine them getting any cheaper than this, especially with the new Ferrari SUV, the Paraswang, or whatever it's pronounced, being a very, very expensive proposition. I feel like a lot would have to go wrong for this car to depreciate under $100,000, but who the heck knows? Now, I sold my Corvette Z06 for two reasons. Number one, I couldn't haul the kids. Number two, I knew it was going to depreciate. I wanted to get out of it at the top of the market and replace it with something that I could haul the kids in and it wouldn't depreciate. And that is this, the Ferrari FF. And I can't say that I regret it for a second. This car does everything I loved with the Corvette Z06 and so much more. But it is a 10-plus-year-old Ferrari. It doesn't drive like it, which we'll drive it right now, but we're going to drive up to the car wizards and see if it is a 10-plus-year-old Ferrari when it comes to issues. All right, so First impressions, this is a wonderful, gently riding touring car when you have it in comfort mode, which is what I love about the FF and the suspension in the Ferrari in general, like the 599 or the 458. It just feels so good in comfort mode, but then when you dial it up, it completely transforms the car. But what isn't a gentle Grand Tour is the V12, which... sounds amazing. Sounds absolutely amazing. Oh yeah. But then as we glide out here in comfort mode on the taxiway, once again it is a very comfy, civilized, amazing, gentle Grand Tour. And so the kids could actually fall asleep in the back. There's enough room back there to where they're comfortable enough. They're not that big yet. A car seat fits. It has the anchors even. This is absolutely the perfect car, especially at this price point. Now, a lot of cars in this wagon segment, or the shooting brakes, say like the BMW Clown Shoe, the M Coupe, they're much like this, where they're sort of weird, ugly ducklings that people just don't understand. They don't sell all that well. They depreciate a lot, and then they sort of go back up. And I'm not sure if that's going to be the case with this one, because it was so darn expensive when new, and they did make a couple thousand of them, not a few hundred, or really, really small amounts, say like an R63 wagon, which is like the Mercedes minivan that people didn't understand that was an AMG. Makes no sense that those have popped up so much in value. So I don't think this car will ever be something that's worth double what it is today. I just think it'll stay put and I can drive and enjoy it. And that's, well, absolutely perfect for me. But then we can turn the knob to sport, and we have a proper sports car here. I did get to use a bit of the all-wheel drive there with the launch, turning into it, and it does feel really good. I mean, only 20% of the power at most going to the front wheels when it needs it at time through magic, I'm not sure, but definitely very different than any Ferrari before, and downshifting is that is a proper Ferrari. I mean, as far as cheap modern Ferrari options, there's this, or there's a California. And the California, well, it doesn't offer this experience anywhere close. It was built to a price point, and it's depreciating and falling apart because it was a car built to a price point. This is a typical cost no object, bespoke Ferrari build with the huge MSRP, and it certainly shows. It doesn't feel quite as special as the 599, another car that I have in my collection that depreciated a lot, but it does feel pretty darn cool. Let's launch it again, turning left, got the all-wheel drive, sawing away at it. That's great. Oh man, that's great. But now I'll dial it back down into comfort, and we'll set in on the highway cruise up to the car wizards in Newton. So I'm not too worried about this car keeping it going. The transmission thing, it's nice that it's had one of them replaced, but it's double the transmissions, double the fun, but still probably two transmissions is better than one early flappy paddle gearbox. The automated manual system that really ruined Ferrari GT cars in the generations before this, the 575, the 612, finally got a dual clutch with this car, and it made all the difference in the world. So hopefully the Wizard likes it, or actually doesn't like it. We don't want them to like it, because if they like it, that means they're fixing things and making a lot of money. So hopefully the Wizard doesn't like it. Yes. Yes. Boy, the Wizard is packed. And he's Ferrariing. Okay, he's already in the mood, so that's good. Wizard! Hello!
Oh, you ready to get your engine out too?
No, it's screaming no. You heard the F1 pump screaming on this one, saying,
Yes.
no, we're not, hopefully not an engine out on this one. I don't know, why would you do an engine out on an FF?
I don't know.
I'm pretty sure I can come up with a few reasons.
No, I don't think so. 348, obviously, this is Euro-Asian Bob's, I assume?
Yes, this is Euro-Asian Bob's 348.
We pranked him on this a few years ago, and he has been waiting to do the engine out, waiting too long, I imagine. It's
It was on the brink, literally, of catastrophe.
Really?
Yes.
How?
Let's take a look at the timing belts over here.
Oh, okay.
So this side's nice and tight.
Uh-huh.
Feel it with your hand. That one's pretty loose.
That's dangerous.
Compared to this one.
That's good and tight, yeah.
And then we look here. There's timing marks. You can see that they're off by about a tooth.
And if it had jumped a few more times, then...
They would have been...
Huh.
By Felicia.
Yeah.
Ah. Okay, well, that's why you do your Ferrari timing belts. Yeah, well, speaking of the 456, I guess it's still sitting high, so the engine's out, but it's coming back together, huh?
Yep.
You're not mixing my Ferrari part and Bob's Ferrari's parts together, are you?
No.
But, the heads are back on, and the bottom end's all back together.
We put brand new, these little cam nuts here. They used hammers to put them on before. They just used a hammer and chisel. Do you have the old ones?
That looks right.
There's a special tool that has 4 fingers that fit into those. We have that tool here. We're able to torque it properly. And
I bought it from a very reputable shop, but I guess they outsourced the previous engine work to somebody who did not do a good job, unfortunately.
Yes.
And it was overheated pretty badly. The heads had warped some.
Pretty bad, actually.
yeah,
according
they were
to our
actually worked
machinist.
pretty bad, yeah.
So they had to skim a lot?
It skimmed quite a lot. Almost to the maximum he felt comfortable with. He said they'll be fine, but if he had to go any further, he would have been pooping himself.
Okay, so I shouldn't overheat the motor again then.
No overheating of this engine.
All right. Well, yeah, that's my V12 2+2 that looks like a Ford Probe, but now I brought my V12 2+2 that looks, it's different.
It definitely is different.
What do you think of the FF?
I think at first glance, you're like, what the hell is going on here? It's like confusion. But then you start looking at it some more and you start to fall in love with it.
I think it's a great value and very practical, and that's why I bought it. But I'm getting distracted because you have another Italian coupe here.
Yes.
Oh my gosh. A Bertone Volvo. So
Yes.
Swedish and Italian mashup.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's my Probe or my Ferrari 456, and then the Car Trek 308's back too.
It is back. Jared from the Questionable Garage has done an excellent job. He put Holley parts on it.
So it's running on Holley EFI.
Yes.
Wow. Well, okay. Anyway, back to the FF. Amazing value compared to the Ferrari F12 or any other dual clutch era. Basically, this era Ferrari, it's half the price or less than half the price, unless it's a California, which, you know, how the California's not at this league.
No.
So, of course, the reason why is because it's a goofy hatchback, but also because it's a little bit mechanically infamous. This one has had the big transmission replaced, but I guess it's very complicated, this all-wheel drive system, that I don't necessarily understand. I've never seen it before, so I was hoping that we could take a look at it today and try and understand how it all works and see if you see any issues.
We'll get it on the lift and we'll get Danielson over here. He's very familiar with this system. He can show us how it all works and give us his thumbs up or thumbs down.
Now, I hear that F1 pump, even though it's a dual clutch. It's so weird. Why does it make F1 pump sounds when it's not an F1 car?
The front transmission, yes, the front transmission, because it has two, has a independent pump because it runs off that old F1 fluid from back in the day.
So it's not like a front differential, it has gears to it?
Yes, actually 2 gears.
Weird.
Okay. Well, that's not the one that was replaced on this car as far as I know. It was the main big one. So Daniel's son was a Ferrari tech in Florida for many years.
Mm-hmm.
So what FF jobs have you seen or done?
Front transmission.
Oh,
Not
Yeah.
the big one, the front one.
okay. And that they go out at about 37,000 miles, or is that?
Well, It's on borrowed time. I've seen them at 15.
Okay. So what is the symptoms of a failed front transmission?
Leaks.
Okay.
mainly.
All right. Well, I haven't noticed any leaks, but we'll see.
You came here for good news, and you're getting bad news.
It makes those noises. Well,
It's like a bunch of plastic
it's the usual thing.
and cardboard.
Oh, probably not cardboard.
No,
But
there's some sort of a panel there.
yeah, I want to see how all this magic works and if I have any leaks. So I guess a panel needs to come off, huh?
Yeah,
It's interesting how this is ribbed for the road's pleasure, Wizard.
it definitely is. I'm really liking the ridges.
All right.
That's a good sign.
It's a dry.
Yeah.
Yeah. Dry space. Okay. Well, this is looking extremely complicated.
So at the very front of the engine, where you think it would be an oil pan, there's a transmission.
That is very strange. And why is there spray paint on that part and the wire connector there?
That is a leak detector powder.
Oh.
Someone's been looking for leaks already.
And it wasn't coming from there.
There's the engine.
Right. Mounted farther back.
Mm-hmm.
And then, is this a rear-mounted transmission or is it...
Yes.
Yeah, so it's sending power back up from somewhere, or is it coming off the front of the engine as well to just...
Yes. Instead of a crankshaft pulley, you get a transmission.
Weird.
Okie dokie.
I've not seen the FF model before. This is all new stuff to me.
Wow. All right. And then there's no oil pan either because it's a dry sump, I assume. That's
Yeah.
pretty standard Ferrari stuff. But that is a whole new world. So they're looking for leaks. That's what this spray is for.
Mm-hmm.
And
Like I
it's
said.
not leaking.
Not at the moment.
Thanks for the vote of confidence, Wizard. Huh. All right. Well, to my untrained eye, I don't really see any issues, but
But then back here, there's the main transmission, huh? There, yeah, it's just through the hole there. You can see it.
yep. Nice and dry as well.
Something has leaked at some point, but it's not leaking now.
Right, because they had the transmission replaced. Not by you, someone else.
It looks like an angel.
He does, yes. An underbody panel angel. A Firebird, yep. So, here's the real transmission, I suppose.
Mm-hmm.
The $40,000 replacement.
You see, it used RTV silicone here from the factory.
Yeah.
I had a guy argue with me. He said, no factory does that. They use gaskets on everything.
Well, it's the same as like the SLS AMG.
Yeah, that's very common for manufacturers to do that today.
Right. And the exhaust is just sort of squeezed on either side there. They even made the pipes a little ovular.
Ovular.
Ovular?
Yes.
They're ovulating. Yes, exactly. Yeah.
It says get drag power shift.
Yep.
There's a cooler.
Very nice.
It's all dry, and you could tell the transmission back here definitely is brand new.
It does look nice and shiny.
This is how they look when they arrive to the dealership brand new.
Mm-hmm.
Well-
It needs Capristo back here, though.
It's very quiet. I do agree with you. When the valves open up, it does sound nice, though. So maybe they just get stuck open at
Here's
some
a
point.
name. Somebody wrote their name. Incolato.
Yeah. All right. Sorry, Wizard.
Darn.
Sorry, Danielson.
Yeah.
Back to working on farm trucks for you.
Yeah. Come on.
I was going to take Mrs. Wizard on a big trip for her 20th anniversary.
Yeah, when I buy a Ferrari, that's usually what happens. But I wanted something that I could take trips with the family, with the kids, and trust it. and I think I got a good one.
I think you did. Actually, you did.
Mission accomplished. Thank you so much for watching.